Want to start including technology in your fitness journey? Well, stick around. We may have something for you. Hey, I'm Mike,
And I'm Twain.
and welcome to another episode of 40 Plus Fit, the podcast that goes beyond the fads and delves into the science behind sustainable weight loss and fitness for the 40 plus crowd, where we bring you expert insights on exercise, nutrition, and healthy habits, empowering you to make informed choices and create a personalized plan for success.
For success. That is what it's all about.
And how are you today, Twain?
I am, to be honest, a little bit tired.
Tired?
Yeah, man, I've had a long morning just answering clients and doing up some other content pieces. Yeah, working on some secret projects.
Oh, that's
That's
so it's a good tired then.
it's a good tired. It's a good tired.
Nice,
Also,
nice.
I also sneaked in a workout as well. So, yeah, I'm surprised how much I've gotten done. By the time we're recording this, is what, like 11 a.m., right? 11, no,
Yes.
almost 12. It's almost 12. And I'm surprised just how much you can get done in the first half of the day.
It's true when you apply a little bit of focus. But I find like for myself, one of the things that helps me to focus though, and this might lead us into today's conversation as well, is
Yep.
I've started using quite a bit of technology
Oh,
in for my productivity. And I noticed that, I started using this as well a little bit now in my fitness journeys as well, bringing it slowly in. Don't want to go jump fully into the pool and get it over my head.
what what
Um,
what sort of stuff have you started to use?
well, I've started using trackers. So
Hmm.
I'm now starting to see a bit more with regards to my steps, get a proper step count for the day.
Yeah.
Um, in the gym, I'm using the apps so that I can not only count the reps and see my progress, but I also get to proper timing instead of if I get the guesstimate as to, oh, I think it's been 1 minute between sets. Now I can actually get a bit more of a clearer picture. But what about yourself? I mean, have you have been using much technology with your fitness journey?
Yeah. I mean, I use tons and tons of apps for that, which is mainly for the different like areas. So like for nutrition, I do have one app that I use as to track nutrition. For my own like weight, I have my like weighing scale that is kind of attached to an app as well. So it kind of takes, the measurements and the readings there as well. Um, in terms of workout apps, I'm still old school. I use an Excel sheet. No, actually, sorry, I use my own phone notes and then I transfer them over to an Excel sheet. So I'm not as savvy in that sense. But hey, it's a step up from using a notebook and a pen, which I still see some people do in the gym, which is pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
very comforting to see that.
I saw that as one of the top sellers on Amazon is this workout journal.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
not it's the analog method, right? That's what it is. Just
Yes.
scribing it down. There's just something about just doing it, old school in the sense that still feels good. But
Mm.
yeah, but we want to talk about fitness apps today, right? So how can you actually kind of use fitness apps
Well, I
as
think
part
it's
of the journey?
technology in general. Like you touched
Oh
on a
yeah,
good
yeah.
one there is it starts already in the bathroom scale, right? Or wherever your scale is placed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It starts there. We don't realize just how much uh info you can actually get from these scales these days. It's not just about weight.
Yep, yep, that's true. And I think one of the most common things that people tend to find is, when you go to a gym, sometimes you go to a gym, they give you like a free trial, they give some sort of free assessment, they get you to step on an in-body scale or something of that nature. And it prints out this whole, data sheet where it tells you, okay, how much, what's your weight, skeletal muscle mass, your body fat percentage, how much like your protein percentage is, water, all these kind of like, data points, right? And I'm sure many people that listen, it's like, for them, how much of this is actually relevant?
True.
Sometimes data is like it's cool to see, but I think the first thing we need to address is what do you actually need to measure in order to progress?
Yep.
Because like enough data is a good idea. Too much data sometimes gets so overwhelming that people get lost in the weeds.
That's
And
right.
I think it's important to kind of understand, first of all, what you need to measure in order to progress properly. And then secondly, what is the extent to which some of these trackers or some of these tech can actually measure these things accurately?
Hmm. So let's start there then. let's see. What is the top 5 things that people should really focus on if you want to really get serious about your fitness journey? What are the
Mm.
things that you should be measuring to ensure that you can see if there's progress in your journey?
So I think for most people that are listening to this, probably there's some degree of like fat that needs to be lost, right? So I would say honestly, for so many clients that I have, weight is going to be one of the most important things to track. Mainly because for most clients, they are probably overweight. And losing some weight will already be beneficial to their health. So I think weight is one of those things you want to track. And even though I say lose weight, sometimes if people are trying to gain muscle as well, gaining weight is going to be very important. If you're just in a maintenance phase and you're just trying to hold on to the results that you've gotten and just go into that maintenance groove where you're cruising and you're just enjoying the fruits of your labor, so to speak, you also would want to kind of track your weight as well, just to make sure things are staying within a certain range. So weight is probably the most important thing I would say first. Yeah. Of course, you can't depend only on one metric, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you only depend on one metric, then you only have one small piece of the equation. So I would say, aside from weight, you probably also want to track something like the waist measurement. Yeah. So the waist measurement would be another one to track. Now, this could be a very simple tape measure, kind of around your belly button, just kind of to measure the girth of the waist.
Hmm.
And then from there, you can see, okay, are there any size differences, especially as you're losing weight or even as you're gaining weight, whether it's going up too much or it's going down enough. This is going to be pretty important because at the end of the day, visceral fat is probably one of the things that we want to try to lower for most people to bring it within a healthy range. And it tends to be one of the biggest things, especially for like older people, right? We're talking about 40 plus. A lot of times when we're not careful and we have become very sedentary and we just eat kind of whatever we want, we're not moving around much. A lot of that fat gets around the waist. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
guilty as charged.
hey, even for myself as well, it's like even though I'm bulking, even though I'm training hard and all, as I'm putting on weight, there is some fat going to the waist. It just is the way that fat distributes for the most part. So there's those two things there. What else? What else can we measure? Well, if we are concerned with body fat, perhaps body fat percentage as well. However, this is a little bit trickier in the sense that there's so many different ways to measure it, all with differing levels of accuracy.
Mm.
So, but it could still be a really good metric to take a look at. Yeah, because if you know your body fat percentage and you know your weight, you can get an idea of where your lean tissue is. And as long as your lean tissue is, generally going up over time, or it's at least maintaining around a certain level, and your body fat's going down, you're moving into a good space.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me think, what else? What else? I think activity levels as well is something that you want to track.
Right.
This is something that a lot of people don't think too much about, or maybe a lot of people actually do think about it in terms of like how many steps I'm getting, because it seems to be quite popular nowadays. I believe in Singapore there's a program where if you clock a certain number of steps a day, you can actually kind of collect points on an app, and you can actually uh, trade those points in for either rebates or discount vouchers or things like this. Like
Oh,
my parents are big fans of the app, so my parents clock like my mom clocks 10,000 plus steps a day, just
wow.
just walking up and down our apartment corridor. My
Amazing.
my I mean, my dad's really active, right? So he clocks like 15,000 a day or something like of that sort. He goes out, he runs, every single day he just does whatever he does. So there's that also, which I think step count, tracking that probably is a great way to proxy activity levels. Just kind of seeing, okay, is my activity levels hitting a certain range? Because one thing that a lot of people don't realize is sometimes people might say, hey, I'll do more cardio,
Mhm.
to try to burn a bit more, get a bit more calorie burning going. But then because they are so tired from the cardio, their general activity levels actually drop.
Yeah.
So in a way, you kind of replace one for the other, and then they find that, hey, I did all this cardio, but I didn't get any results. Like what happened? Oh, it's because my activity level actually dropped. I felt more tired from it. And especially as you diet more, if you get further into a diet, you actually tend to feel a bit more tired, right? Because the dieting does take a bit of a toll on the body. And so when we get a bit more tired, our body tries to conserve energy in very subconscious ways. It could even be something as simple as like making that decision to like park very close to the entrance of the grocery store. It
Yeah.
could be the simple little things that we don't realize. Our body tries to conserve those energy. I rather like sit here and just chill than to get up and move around. Or I stop fidgeting as much. Small things like this that actually contribute to that subconscious reduction of activity. So I think just tracking steps makes it a very mindful, conscious way to make sure we get it in. Yeah, so I think those are probably the ones off the top of my head. Did I miss anything? Mike, anything from your end, do you think?
Well, I have a little bit of a question, and just maybe we can expand upon this a little bit, is that we
Okay.
place such great emphasis on the step count, right? But the step count, does that fall under the NEAT, or is that fall under some form of cardio outside of the NEAT window?
Oh no, I would say I use that more as a proxy for NEAT. Now, those people
Ah,
who are listening probably might not understand what NEAT is. So NEAT, NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So basically it just means all the activity that you do that is not exercise related. There is going to be some overlap. Obviously, if you go and do some running, you could do some sort of cardio, there's going to be some overlap with the step count, especially if you're wearing something that tracks your steps or you have your phone on you or something. But yeah, but for the most part, to simplify things with clients, I usually just tell them, just take a look at your step count. And if we add in cardio sessions, we still have a baseline step count that we already pre-established. So if you're already doing like 10K steps previously, and we're going to add in cardio now, then you've got to make sure your baseline everyday minimum is still 10K, even if we add in the cardio.
I see. 10K
Yeah.
is actually quite a bit. I consider 10K as a good day already. Already. So when you
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
what your parents are doing, I'm actually quite envious.
Well, okay, to be fair, 10K does take a bit of time. So whoever's listening to this, if you find that, oh my God, like is 10K the holy grail of like step count? It's not really, it's just popularized. And it's an easy number to kind of gravitate towards, right? But the research literature on it, it's between like 5 to 10K. So if you're below 5, you definitely should try to bring it up beyond 5 just to reduce any substantial health risk. Then from 5 to 10 is roughly like, you get that health risk benefit reduction as well, but it's a lot lesser than going
Starts
from 0
working
to
on the
5.
bell curve, is it?
Yeah, it kind of works on yeah, almost on the bell curve kind of deal. So once you go past 10K, the extra benefits are probably too marginal for you to expend the additional time and energy to do it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when it comes to weight, the other issue that I always sit with is that you have weight fluctuation on a daily basis, oftentimes due to water weight or
Mm.
whatever it is. Everybody's different, so everybody has their own reasons. But there's like on Monday, say you're weighing, like in my case, 95, right? This is
Okay.
kilograms. So 95 kilograms. Then on Tuesday or Monday night, even, I'm sitting at like 98 kilograms.
Mm.
Then Thursday, midday, I'm sitting at 94 kilograms. So you get this kind of fluctuation. So if you're going on and you're relying just on muscle memory or your memory itself, your brain memory, when you're going climbing on the scale, this can be quite disconcerting at times.
Yeah, for
Because you're
sure.
seeing like, wow, okay, oh, I made progress, fantastic, I'm now 94. But then you climb on that night, oh, I'm 98.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I've loved about technology is that with some of the apps that we use, uh, it averages it out. So you
Mm.
actually get like a nice, beautiful, and it's all automatic. I don't need to do any calculations since, I'm so fantastic at maths. Um, so it averages it all out for me nicely, and I can see more of a truer reflection of where I'm at with progress when I'm looking at weight loss.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great one, right? Like are you talking about a skill that you're using that kind of is connected to your phone as
Yes,
well?
yes,
Cool, cool. I have one similar one, and I think there's so many different types, right? Like you have the Xiaomi's, you have the Omrons, so many different brands. It really doesn't matter which brand, to be honest. Just get one that's like, connects to your phone and it's a decent quality, I guess. The one I have is a Xiaomi. So that connects to the phone, and then what it does is it just automatically tracks it, right? All you have to do is step on it in the beginning of the day. I've always made it a habit though, for myself, because you mentioned stepping on the scale throughout the day, right? So one of the things that I usually tell clients is like, don't bother stepping on the scale throughout the day. In fact, the other day I did a quick post on my Instagram where I had a hot pot night. right? So in the morning, I actually stepped on my scale, I was 95.2 kilos. And then after I had all the hot pot stuff, after I had the whole day of eating, I just stepped on the scale after that just to see, how much weight I put on. Can you guess how much I was?
I'm guessing you were 75.2.
No, 95.2.
I'm guessing 98 or 99.
Yeah. So it was actually 99.15. So I was like 4 kilos up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's why I really don't recommend like taking your weight or stepping on the scale any other time other than in the morning after you go to the toilet. Just make sure it's always consistent. I think that's the thing. But like you said, with technology, it kind of helps you smooth things out as well because I think it kind of takes it into account for the day itself and then it averages that out. And the more data points you have for weight, it then helps you kind of see a much bigger picture of it because overall you see where the trend is going. So I guess that's one of the cool things with these kind of like machines. Um, does yours have a body fat percentage measurement
Yes.
as well?
Yes, it does.
Hmm. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think even
it's a bit bad to look at that on a daily basis, but there's progress. It's getting better.
yeah, definitely. But the thing about it is also like these ones on the scale, because they use what they call like bioimpedance, so you're kind of
Mm,
stepping on it and it just kind of sends a mild current through you, right? There's just so many things that could influence it. A large portion of that's kind of also what you eat or what you haven't eaten, how hydrated you happen to be. If your hydration levels happen to be really poor for that day itself, it could affect it. And then the accuracy of that is like literally a couple of different percentage points, not in terms of the statistical percentage points, but like 18% body fat plus 2% or minus 2%, something along that range, which is a lot. So it's really one of those things you take with a pinch of salt. And with all these kind of readings, I usually tell clients, and this is something probably that's very useful to understand, you don't need precision. Like it doesn't need to actually be true, like that you're 18% or 70% or 16%, whatever it is. It actually just needs to be consistent. So you
ah,
just need you don't need that level of like no, sorry, accuracy. Yeah, you don't need a level of accuracy to make sure like it's accurate and it's true. You just need a level of precision, meaning you try to keep all the variables the same when you weigh yourself every morning. And then over time, you see what that trend is. If it's moving in the right direction, then you're good. But for an actual body fat, I mean, sometimes people are just curious, right? They want to know, like, okay, what's my actual body fat? If you're looking for that, there's probably other body fat measures that you might want to go and try that will be way more accurate. But it's
mm.
also limited by the equipment because the equipment's expensive.
But as you point out, it depends on what your goals are, right? If your
It really
one is just
does.
general fitness, looking at using the scale like this and getting those metrics back, and
It's
as
good
long as you're
enough.
being consistent with the same
Yeah.
technology, it should be good enough for you to
Yeah.
see any progress.
And more importantly, looking in the mirror and seeing yourself. I think like
Yes.
you can see the new line across, your chest, or you can see that new like, oh man, the abs is starting to pop out, small things like this. Then you know you're on the right track, right? It doesn't really matter what your body fat really is. Nobody really cares
I suppose for the ladies, it's when they can fit into their old clothes
when they
or things like
can.
that. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I have
You
one of my clients, she's every week her check-in is always like, oh man, I love shopping now, but my husband hates it. He says I'm spending too much money buying too many new clothes. Funny.
You touched on step count, right? So that's
Yes.
moving like into the arena of like wearables.
Wearable
Where,
trackers, yeah.
yeah. So my wife and I, but we both use the same tracker. We also use Xiaomi.
Okay.
Then we got friends that use like what is it, Fitnessbit or
A Fitbit.
Fitbit,
I think that's the
and
name of it. It's still a wristband kind of deal, right?
yeah.
Yeah, so it
So,
should be Fitbit, I think.
so they're using all these types, right? Now the thing that always irks me, and maybe you can provide some clarity on this, is that my wife and I'll go running for a bit of cardio.
Yeah.
So we have like a track that we'll run around. And so just to give an idea, I'll do, let's say, 10 laps, right? Now in those
Okay.
10 laps, I've lapped my wife 5 times probably. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. But when it comes to the end of the day, when we actually look at our trackers and we download our data, is we're probably comparable as to the distance that we've traveled. So
Oh,
when it comes to wearables, does it depend? Because my wife is literally like half my size. So her one step is, or my one step is probably two steps of hers.
Yeah.
So does the fitness trackers actually take that into account? And when they put it into when they put the data down, does it correlate it to, this person is this taking this stride length, and therefore they've covered this amount of space? Or is it really a true reflection? Like when it says that you've covered 8 kilometers in a run, did you really cover 8 kilometers?
Yeah. I think okay, I'm not like a
Mm.
total engineering expert on this subject. I have looked into it before where I was just researching a little bit. I think there are generally a couple of ways in which the step trackers work. The first one is just the regular what do you call like an a dynometer, no, not dynometer or accelerometer, something like that.
The pedometer.
Basically it's like
Mm.
an accelerometer, I think that's what it's
Yeah.
called, where it tracks the movement, and once it hits the threshold point of change in speed rate, let's say in a certain way, it tracks that and uses that as a and calculates that as part of the algorithm to figure out, okay, is this considered a step or not? And I think the technology for that or the algorithms for that have improved a lot more now. So they're a
Mm.
bit more sensitive to like kind of what you're doing. So I think the Garmin ones have quite a good gauge of that. For example, the Garmin ones, you could wear it and they use a general like more advanced accelerometer, and you could do like a shoulder press and the watch could tell you you're doing a shoulder press.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's just it's the I think it pulls a lot of data from people wearing the accelerometer and then doing certain actions and then pulling all the data, aggregating it. So that's I would say that's probably the most accurate ones in terms of the actual like getting the movement in and tracking it. To the extent that it takes into account a person's height, stature, the weight, their stride length and stuff, I don't think it takes that into account, to be honest. I highly doubt so. I would say that if they clock the distance, there's likely some sort of GPS mechanism in it as well that allows it to then track movement over distance versus the actual accelerometer itself. So it's kind of, I mean, long story short, right? Like, getting super technical about it,
Yeah.
it's probably just like it can track your movement pretty well to be able to differentiate between whether you're taking a step, whether you're actually moving around and about. And it can also kind of measure the total distance that you generally have covered. But I would say that the accuracy for the distance itself might probably not be so good. And depending on the tracker and the level of technology for the movement side of things, you could have some that overestimate, because they count in like hand movements. So if you're wearing a Fitbit on your hand, you could kind of like count in hand movements if you're waving your hand up and down or something. And then that could track steps as well.
Okay.
Yeah. There has been I have one client that actually introduced this idea to me, and I shared it with some other clients. Some of them thought it was like pretty cool idea, and they do it as well. Um, it's a little bit unconventional, but it actually works if you think about it. So instead of wearing a Fitbit on your wrist, you wear it on your ankle,
Okay.
and then that is more accurate to tracking your overall steps and moving around for the day. So that
Oh,
eliminates any hand movement aspects.
interesting.
Yeah. But then, of course, it wouldn't be able to track some of the other things which are related to like sleep and all. But I think most people don't actually wear their Fitbit to sleep, right? Or the Apple Watch to sleep anyway. So,
I do.
oh, you do?
Yeah. I like to get, I'm one of these data junkies in certain ways. And so
Okay.
I like to see, is there any progress here? Is there progress there? If it says that I've slept a full 8 hours, do I actually feel different the next day? I always like to see these kind of things and I don't know, create like a
Um,
mini experience. But that's a very good point that you're bringing up now is that the sleeping part. When you're
hmm,
wearing wearables, right? Uh,
yeah,
Perhaps let me just backtrack a little bit. Let's look at it from this perspective. We take it from biggest effect in weight loss to smallest. So we're focusing on the what we said the NEAT, right? The non-exercise activity. So for that, we're probably looking at a wearable tracker. That's going to probably be the best thing to measure any progress in this instance. So we have,
yeah,
like you said, step counts. Okay. Then you
yeah,
touched on now is some of these wearable trackers also measure your sleep quality and your sleep length.
yeah,
All right. Some of them also you can capture how much water you're drinking. I mean,
Oh, wow. Okay.
it's a manual thing. Yeah, you have to push and say, okay, I drank
Oh,
water,
okay.
I drank water. But
Okay.
it's there. It's the facility is there.
I was like, yeah, because you had me for a moment. I was thinking, like, how? Like, what's the technology you use? They say it's manual, it's fine.
That would be quite phenomenal, eh? You can actually determine by the weight that you're drinking, this is beer, this is water. So and then it can also measure stress.
Yeah.
So I think those are three big players already, your activity level, your sleep and your stress levels.
Yeah.
Is there anything?
I would say for myself, I do think that sleep trackers are not necessarily the most um well, how would you put it? Like they're not super relevant. Like they're cool data to have. And I know you mentioned that, you had some or you like to kind of log that in, right? Like you like to track your sleep data, so, see if you had enough sleep. But I'm on the side of the fence that feels like it's not necessary to do that because regardless of whatever sleep data you get, the end goal is you still need to do all the usual stuff to make sure you get enough sleep. Like it doesn't change the things that you need to do. Meaning, do you have a sleep routine, right? What's the sleep hygiene like? Do you have a pre-bed routine? Are you actually even regularly going to bed and waking up at the same time? You know, things like this. I would say the data comes in to be useful when you're already doing those things regularly and you're not feeling refreshed when you wake up. And then it could give you some insight into things like, okay, what's your deep sleep patterns like? Are you like waking up in the middle of the night? Things like this. But to be honest, these are also things that you probably will realize. Like if I'm waking up in the middle of the night, I know I'm waking up in the middle of the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm having trouble sleeping in the middle of the night, then I know I'm having trouble sleeping in the middle of the night. And so I would then look for solutions to that. I don't think it's super relevant to have something tell me that or reinforce that. I get that maybe it could be reassuring sometimes. Is that kind of what you feel, or is
Well,
that what you think from it?
the thing that I find is like I've gotten to understand the concept now of deep sleep and light sleep and REM and all that. So looking at the metrics that I have is when I've had about an hour and 20 minutes to plus of deep sleep the previous night, I'm
Okay.
super refreshed the next day and I can really focus and I'm very productive. But when I sleep less than that, let's say an hour or less deep sleep, more light sleep or REM filling in here and there, I
Mhm.
find that the next day I'm a bit zombie-like. I can feel like, oh, okay, this is not a good day. I can feel I'm still tired. It's maybe a slight headache. My eyes are still I still want to sleep some more. So it gives me a bit of a gauge, and I can start to see that there's a pattern. Then from that, I can go back and I can see, okay, what did I do different that I got here on a deep sleep? What did I do different here that I got less sleep, less deep sleep? And so I
And
can
what do
try to
what do you
rectify
find?
and change any habits that maybe have crept in subconsciously.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean I can see the use for that.
But I mean, this is a very individual basis.
Yeah, for sure.
Not everybody is as anal about these things as I am.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I still maintain that at the end of the day, you're still going to do the same thing, right? Like regardless, it's just kind of
Yeah, it's just a
how
journey, how you get there.
yeah, the journey and how we get that buy-in, even from ourselves, to
Yeah.
do it. Yeah, fair enough. It's interesting though, just a quick note here for whoever's listening, if you're interested. I think most of these sleep trackers, like the Fitbit one, is a rudimentary version of what they call a PPG. It's an infrared style sensor. I forgot the name for it. It's like infrared. It's a very long name. It's like photo ply plethysmosography sensor or something like this. Just called PPG. Just go and Google it. Infrared PPG. You probably will find it. And they actually use it in hospital devices. It basically just measures your heart rate and respiration. So as long as it's within the skin contact, it actually can help kind of track that. I think the one on the market that has the best almost medical grade level PPG is the Aura Ring. So have you seen,
Yeah.
those ads for this little ring that you wear and then it tells you, okay, how do you sleep and all? Like if you're really interested in sleep, for those who are listening, I would say that that's the most effective one I've seen so far, having compared different ones. for other clients that have asked before. Again, I don't think it's necessary, but hey, like if you're like Mike and you like to crunch data, you like to see like tangibly like this, and that's part of the journey, is the fun part, right? To look at it and be like, hey, cool, now I can then start retrospectively looking at my habits and things like this. Then by all means, man, it's possibly something to look at. Possibly, yeah.
Okay, so and then that's neat. So we're looking at the trackers, right?
Yep.
Um, so if we're moving on to the next one that plays the biggest part in this whole losing weight journey, if we can call it, we probably have to
Yeah.
look at nutrition. We'll be remiss if we don't look at nutrition, shall we say?
Yeah.
And so I found is like one thing that benefited me when I started tracking was I found out that how much I was actually over, or shall we say, underestimating the food that I was taking in.
Yeah, man.
The quantity of food might not have been a lot, but the quantity or the caloric quantity in the
A lot more
various
than we
food that I was
realized, man.
eating was a
Yeah.
lot higher than I had already thought about initially.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um, tracking your food and actually taking stock of how much you're eating in a day, it's actually a very eye-opening experience for a lot of people. Um, Most of the time, in fact, in the research for it, they did a study where they got people to self-report how much they ate, and then after that they got them to kind of track exactly how much they ate, and the discrepancy average is 50%. So they were literally tracking 50%. Sorry, they were underestimating their intake by 50%. So if they were taking in, or they thought they were taking in like 1,000 calories, they were actually eating 1,005. If they thought they were eating 2,000 calories, they were actually eating 3,000.
Yeah,
So
sounds about right.
yeah, so it's really, really, really common to undershoot and underestimate. Even for myself, somebody who's been, going through this whole dieting, fitness stuff for the better part of I think majority of my life already at this point, right? Um, I still underestimate how much I eat sometimes. And it's normal because we're all human. You that's why the idea of developing like good eating habits is super important, because that's the main foundation of making sure that we don't overeat. We have some control over how much we're eating. It doesn't help that our environment nowadays, due to affluency, and it's a good thing, right? Like, because we have improved in terms of social structure, everything has improved. Generally, if you're listening to this, you have access to food anytime. So it's so easy to get food nowadays. That's why people in more affluent countries are getting like fatter and fatter and fatter. Yeah. Uh, so it's one of those things where it helps. It helps to kind of like wake up, be this wake up call to like, oh wow, I didn't realize I'm actually eating this much. When you first try to track your calories. But of course, that depends on how you track calories and whether you're doing it correctly as well. So, but it's one of those things you have to start and then you slowly figure it out as you go along. Sometimes with guidance, sometimes you just gradually understand it a bit better.
Yeah, I was using the fist, the open palm, the thumb method, where
Oh
they're
yeah,
saying is like you eat the fist of carbs, you eat the palm size of protein, and a thumb size of fats. So I was going with that, but it turned out that there's a lot of protein that you're eating that actually has a lot of fat that you you did not account for in this particular way of doing things.
yeah.
And
I
so when
mean,
I started tracking it now through the apps, then it actually lists out all the different calories and breaks it down into the macros that you can actually see how it's actually filled up.
yeah,
And that is a bit enlightening, because then you start understanding, hey, actually, if you see this kind of food, it's this portion that I was eating over here is actually not quite right for this particular food. If I was
mm,
eating, yes, chicken breast, yeah, sure, no problem. I can eat that. That's very that way works well. That method works very well.
yeah,
But when you start expanding, and as you're saying, we're moving into all of this processed food and all these different kinds of things. In the older day, at least we had to walk to the store to go and buy it. So we could account for the steps to try and make up for the calories to afford the processed food or the junk food, if we can put it that way. Nowadays, it's just a push on the app, and the food comes to your door. So you
Yeah.
you literally only have to walk to your door, and then that's it.
Yeah, man.
So I found like for myself is using the app for that. Not necessarily that I'm a super tracking on calories, but for the enlightenment to actually see how much
Mm,
am I really taking in. And once I started to see that, it helped me then to correct my ways going forward.
yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think that the calorie tracking tool itself, that's the real purpose. It's to help you open up your eyes to, oh shit, like how much are you actually eating? To get a very real view of what you're actually taking in, because most people are eating way more than they think. Like I know some of you might think I only eat a small brunch, I only eat, a small dinner. I'm not really eating that much. But all the little, like, midday, you have this little biscuit here, you have a bit of tea here, you have a bit of coffee, you drink one bubble tea, you go to a Starbucks, get one frappuccino, a small frappuccino, whatever it is. All these things will add up. You'll be so surprised. And
Mm.
then at the same time, like you say, enlightening in terms of some foods that you think might be so-called unhealthy for you actually don't have as much calories as you think. So
Yep.
let's say we go to this off the top of my head. Let's say we go to KFC and you get like a soup, mashed potato, right? You have the two sides. You have the mashed potato. You have
Yep.
like the coleslaw. If you check on the nutritional information, you realize that the mashed potato actually has less calories than the coleslaw. It sounds so counterintuitive, right? Because coleslaw is just vegetables with supposedly a little bit of mayo, but the sauce adds up and it's
Yep.
quite dense and thick as well. And the mashed potato, the gravy is actually pretty light in terms of the amount of fat in it. Surprisingly, it's not a high amount of fat in it. And potato itself is already considered, it's actually not a very dense carb in the first place. It's already quite a moderate, volume food in and of itself. So small things like this you realize, and then it also kind of frees up all your options, because then you understand every food item has a caloric cost. Then that's the quantity component, because total calories still matter. They still impact how your body gets that signal whether it should gain weight, it should store more food because it has excess of food, or it should actually lose weight because it has a deficit of calories in it. It needs to make up that difference, right? So the calories still definitely matter. Of course, yeah, we're not saying in isolation like calories are the only thing. You still have to focus on the quality of food. If you're not eating your, proteins, if you're not eating your fruits and your vegetables, getting enough fiber in, obviously that's not going to be that's not going to be it as well. Yeah. I think one of the things that, and I don't want to go off too much on this, but one of the things that I think people tend to take is that they will say, oh, if somebody says calories matter, they immediately assume that the person means like, oh, you can eat all the shitty stuff. But that's not kind of how it works. Um, so it's like they're not mutually exclusive. Both have to work together. Yeah.
It's true. And when I look at that, the other thing is when you're talking about the KFC, the other one that always came to mind is whenever you go for a meal or whatever, it's like, I'm on a diet. Today I'm going to have a salad. And then they bring the salad and it's like this, and it's like, the salad's a bit tasteless. Huh? Can I have extra sauce? And it's like they bring the
Oh, yeah.
Thousand Island sauce or whatever sauce you got, and you throw and you smear and everything. By the time you finish that meal, you could have actually have just eaten a regular meal and gotten more
Yeah,
protein in for the day.
yeah, you could have eaten a burger or something. And nowadays the salads they'll toss in a couple, like, they have the croutons, they have like cheese on it sometimes, they put
Mm.
bacon, whatever it is. All these things will add up. But it's just because it's so dense in calories and it's so tasty, it doesn't register as well. And so the tracking of the calories really helps. So some like what's the app that you use for tracking?
For calories, macro factor.
Yeah, yeah. For nutrition. Okay. Yeah, I use the same one too. I think they are really, really good. Um, they're
So if
one
you had
of
to look at your clients that you're using, I mean, would you give like a top three, top four apps that you find most common that people are using and finding helpful?
yeah. I think my fitness pal is probably still the top, just because my fitness pal's database is so versatile. There's a lot of Asian foods in there. So a lot of my clients, because they are in Southeast Asia, um, it makes it so much easier for them to track the food. Yeah. So that's the main one. I used that for years before I switched over to MacroFactor. Now MacroFactor is a little bit more. It's a very user-friendly app. I think they have great UX. but the thing is the database isn't as robust as MyFitnessPal.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the downside for sure if you're in Southeast Asia. It's still great, I mean, I cook a large majority of my food. I add in custom foods and stuff, but you always have to add in custom foods. So that's the only downside to it. I think another one that a lot of people use is Chronometer, something like this.
Okay.
I think that's another popular one. But there are tons. There are tons of different food apps. I
Mm.
would say MyFitnessPal is still the go-to app, but just get the free version. I realized that, they try to get people to sign up for their premium version and stuff. I don't see any real use or any benefit of signing up for the premium version, mainly because you only want to use it as a food tracking app. Like literally that's it. Anything else beyond that, it tries to kind of tell you, okay, what to do or how much to eat. And it tends to usually be quite off because they don't, I personally feel that the company hasn't invested very much in that side of things, but they've done a really good job with setting up the database and the accessibility of the database. Yeah.
Mm.
So just use the free version. Uh, get a quick hack for you, save some money, that use the free version, and then just use it to track your food.
Okay. The other one I found quite good was Samsung Health. It,
Uh,
it's like
you mean
free.
the one that comes with the phone?
Yeah, I found that one to be not too bad.
I just use that for my steps, to be honest.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just use it to
I
track
used it
my
for my
steps.
nutrition at one time because I mean, this is probably not really such a great way to recommend it then because I was eating a very structured meal plan at the time. So I
Hmm.
was able to enter in all my
Cool.
meals into there, and then I just repeat them, rinse and repeat the whole time. But
Uh,
it was very easy to use, and because it comes with a Samsung phone at that time I was using, it's also a very easy and decent option for people using it.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay, and then we move to the last one. I think this accounts what for 5% of your workout, your fitness, your losing weight journey, shall we say? And that's when it comes to workouts.
5%.
Is it
Well,
5%? I can't remember the actual amounts. I remember that NEAT is a huge amount, then
oh yeah,
nutrition
you're
plays
talking
another part.
about the calorie equation, is that?
Correct.
I mean, from a calorie equation perspective, yeah, the workouts that you do don't burn that much calories. They're like you said, 5-10% maybe.
Mm.
Um, but of course, they are don't mistake that to say they're not important. They are
Oh yeah,
super important because the type of workouts you do inform your body how to change. So the amount of food that you eat tells your body like whether to gain or to lose weight, but the types of workouts that you do tells your body what sort of weight to gain or what sort of weight to lose. Yeah.
yeah.
So they have to work in concert if you really want to maximize the results for the long term. Of course, you can start with one or the other, and you still make some good progress at the start, but at some point you have to really marry the two together.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. So when we start looking at workouts, what kind of trackers or technology are you using there?
Like I mentioned at the start, man, I am an old school guy. Um, okay, old/new-ish school. I use Excel sheets still, and I use my phone notes. But I used to be like a notebook and pen person, so I don't really use any apps for that. And I think okay, here's the reason why. Okay, for a lot of people that are listening in, the reason why I don't use any apps is because I up until recently, I think there hasn't been very many apps that allow us who have a very structured type of program to log it in neatly and to kind of be able to track things properly. So we just stuck with notes and notebooks. And when I say structured kind of program, I mean like I do bodybuilding, so I have a very fixed program. I don't change my workouts, week to week kind of thing, just like because for variety or any of that kind of stuff, I stay relatively focused in like what I'm supposed to do. But for the general public, I'm sure there's a large variety of things that they can do, especially when they're getting started. Some varieties also, I guess, warranted and necessary to keep things fun. So there's actually tons of apps, I think, that give that option, right? I can't think of any off the top of my head. Mainly because all the people I work with, they come to me and I create a program for them, and then I program it into my coaching app. So I have my own coaching app, and a lot of my clients use that coaching app to collect all their data in. So whatever we talked about, a lot of my clients actually kind of consolidate all the data into one app. So that's kind of how I've used technology in my own work in that sense. Yeah.
Mm.
But I mean, just for those who are listening, Mike, do you know of any good workout apps that give
I'm
you?
sure there are a lot. But the one that I have been using is one that's called Strong.
Oh, okay.
It's a super basic one, but it does the job. So
But
it's able
sorry,
to.
but with Strong, you key in your own stuff, right? Like
Correct.
like you
Correct.
key in what the workout you want to do and stuff. Yeah, because
Yes.
that's why I say up until recently, because I
Yeah.
remember that Strong. I think right now the RP hypertrophy app also is quite cool.
But it costs a bomb though, like
Does it?
$25 a month or something like that.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Oh wow. I didn't realize.
Yeah. So for most people in Southeast Asia, it's quite pricey.
Hmm.
But there's another one, G-Fit, like J-E Fit. That one I think is leaning towards what you were saying earlier. That one comes with recommended workouts and all these kind of things. It
Uh,
has the option as well for you to put in your own. I
okay.
used that for a while, but I find there's just too much in that app. So Strong is like super basic.
Yeah.
It's, it's like bare bones. Okay, it does the job. It does exactly what I need it to do because that's what I want. Is I just want a place for me to upload my own workout with my own rep range, my own sets, and then I want the feedback from that.
Yeah, I suppose there might be two types of people generally listening to this, right? Which will
Yep.
be you have a large portion of people who are just like, I just want something to follow and do. And I think that kind of ticks those boxes for them, right? Which is come and suggest to me a workout to do, a more strength-based workout, maybe a more cardio-based workout, something like this. I think honestly there are so many different types on that I think I apologize in advance. We didn't do much research on the actual workout apps themselves, now that I think about it. But there's definitely a ton. I know that even Nike had their own app where you could just go on and you would just follow that. There used to be this body weight one, a German, I think it was a German-based app. There was like a
Free,
movement actually.
free Olympics.
Freeletics.
Yeah.
Freeletics, yes. I think that was a good one as well because they had like body weight versions and then, you could do stuff with like equipment specific things if you had a pair of dumbbells. So all these are really good to follow. And I think fitness is the one thing where there's just so many options out there. Even on
Mm.
YouTube, you could easily search for beginner workout and you get something already. So I think that's the easiest thing to like start from. But if you're really looking for like a proper workout plan, I would say it's probably better to find a proper training plan and then use something like what Mike mentioned, like Strong, key it in there, and then track it on there. Or you could go old school like me, use your phone notes, just kind of key in and say, okay, well, this is what I did last week. And then you can slowly, track it that way. So you always know what you need to beat and how much more you need to lift. And then that way you can make sure you're making progress.
Yeah. There's also like for those that I think Chris Hemsworth had one, right?
Oh, center. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
remember. But there was the whole I mean, to be
I think
honest, the
there's
whole Chris
marketing
Hemsworth
ploy that one.
thing, that one was a bit more of a marketing thing, right? And then they were just using a lot of his transformations for Thor and all that. I mean, we'll leave it at that thing lah. Yeah. Yeah, in
Yeah,
order
there's one other
to
one that I looked at previously, and it's called Playbook. So this one, what it is, and you take it with a grain of salt because you're saying some people might be looking for this kind of stuff. But
yeah.
what it is all celebrity trainers that
Mhm.
upload their workouts on there. So you pay for the app, the subscription to the app, and then you can go and access all these different celebrity trainer uh,
Yeah.
preset workouts, of
Yeah.
which I'm also not a big fan because usually these are set like the one that I looked at last time is Thor's workout.
Yeah.
And the problem that I have with it is that the workout is really set for Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth has a certain DNA, he has a certain lifestyle he's living, he has a certain this, then. So when you come and you do it yourself, you can't really expect the same kind of results as what he got out of that.
Yeah.
But they market it that way, and that's what I've always been a little.
Yeah, so it's very misrepresentative in that sense. But that aside, I do think maybe this is a good point to kind of point out a very important thing, okay, for everybody, which is that the journey you're going to go on with your own health and fitness is going to have different phases. Okay, when I say phases, I don't mean from a like a uh programming point of view, like if there's a bulking phase, cutting phase or something. No, I don't mean that. I mean there are different phases where if you're just going back into things, sometimes all you need is just something that's interesting and fun to get you moving again, to get you into the routine of exercise again. Does it need to be optimal? Does it need to be like, oh, you got squat, bench, deadlift, all this sort of stuff? No. Like from the scientific point of view, the textbook point of view, there's certain things that you need to do. Yes. But I say that you have your own journey, you have your own phase, you know where you're at. If right now all you need is something fun, something to just go and follow, even if it's not the most effective thing, so what? Just don't get injured, right? Just go and try it out, have fun with it. As long as you're moving and lifting some weight, just good. Once you've done this phase enough, okay, usually what happens is you realize you're not getting the kind of results you want. And that's okay because these kind of workouts are not designed for that purpose. These workouts are usually just designed for, people who just want to be able to do something fun and have like a something easier, to kind of let them start exercising. Then from there, you would want to start looking for more specific workouts. Either it might be a bit more bodybuilding style, a bit more athletic style, but whatever it should contain some degree of a strength component to it. It should contain some degree of like, focus on a very structured progression kind of program. And then that's the next phase that you go into where you start doing that. You start to really learn how to exercise properly and start making progression, starting getting stronger, like for real, in a very specific way. And then that's really like the different phases that you experience. And then once you get into that phase, hey, who knows where you might want to go? You might want to cruise in there because you might enjoy it so much. You might balance very well with your life. You might want to say, hey, I want to take things up a notch. I really want to change the way I look. I want to get my physique up to another level. Then you might really go into more of a like bodybuilding thing. You might say, hey, I really love lifting heavy shit. Maybe I want to do more powerlifting stuff. And then you might go into a more like powerlifting style program. Everybody's journey is so different. And I think looking at like the different apps or the different videos or different stuff out there, it's really important to kind of put that into perspective and just say like, choose the thing that appeals to you the most and just go and try it, and then try it for a bit. If you don't like it, then move on from it, try something else. But there's definitely going to be certain phases because this is the most common journey that I see everybody go through. There's always this period where whatever you try is all these hit workouts and YouTube stuff and all that. And you get some results, but it's usually not enough. Or it plateaus out really fast. And then you need something more specific after that.
I think that's a very good point that you brought up, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
The other point that I would just add to it is also is don't jump from thing to thing too quick. Like if you, let's say you want to play football, go and stick to football for a while, and push it, and don't say like, okay, I'll do football this week and next week I do
Tennis.
tennis and everything, because that way, again, it depends on your goal, right? If your goal is just movement, then it's okay. You can play
Yeah.
whatever sport you want to play at any time. But when you're looking for a specific goal out of something, let's say I'm looking to lose weight and do what is it? Lose weight and build muscle, then probably playing football is not really going to be your best friend in
Yeah.
that regard. Losing weight, yes, maybe, but obviously you're not going to build much muscle from playing football.
Yeah.
And so on and so on. So just be realistic with your goals. We do have an episode on this that we did a few episodes ago. I can't remember exactly which one. I think it was episode 1 of season 2,
Yeah,
where
I
we
think
actually spoke about the goals and goal setting, setting realistic goals, and then taking those goals and then seeing how technology here, like from what we've discussed today, how this can actually support you in reaching those goals. If they can, then by all means go and implement them, whichever one it is. Maybe you want to start tracking your calories. Maybe get the enlightenment from that. Maybe you want to see, okay, are you really getting around or is it just in your mind? Okay, let's track some steps. Let's see what are we reaching? Are we
Yeah.
reaching 2,000 steps? Are we reaching 5,000? Or like Twain's father, are you reaching 15,000 steps? What's your base mark that you can work from here?
Yeah.
Because once you have all of these kind of things, then you can start making more informed decisions going forward. And you can also start to decide whether or not to engage a trainer. And when you do, you can give more realistic information to them to see where you're at in your fitness journey, rather than just relying on like, oh, I think you actually have the data to back you up.
Yeah, I mean, as a coach, that really helps. Like when somebody comes to us and then they're like, hey, I've already been doing this, and then I have the data to back it up. We'd be like, okay, cool. Now we have a baseline. We know exactly how much to adjust from there. Versus somebody who's like, they come to us and they're like, oh, I haven't really started anything. It's like, okay, so these are the starting points that you need to kind of do. I mean, both still work, but it's always cool that somebody has the habit of tracking certain things already, rather than if you're starting out, you also need to kind of get into the groove of learning how to track some of these things. Yeah, and actually be mindful about it. Yeah, but it's a journey. It's a journey. Everybody in their own time kind of deal. I mean, our job here or our goal with this podcast essentially is just to give as much of the tools, I suppose, as much of the information and some insights into it. Both from their professional perspective and also just a very real practical perspective, right?
Yeah, we just want to make you aware, really, I suppose is the way we want to say is, and then give you the options of what is actually available out there rather than just going on what is the marketing telling you to go and do.
Yes. Yes. I mean, plus our own real world experiences with it as well. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's it for this episode.
I
You
think
know,
so too. I think we've covered pretty much everything, and I hope if you found this useful, do follow us on Spotify.
and do
Um,
share this with whoever you feel might be be able to benefit from it as well.
yeah. All right.
And
Cool.
yeah, as always, if you have a question, I'm sure there's comments and stuff, right? They can leave
Yes.
on the Spotify episodes itself. You could easily reach out to us via the website as well. So the
Yep.
website is on the Spotify link. I
That's
think
right.
it's a good website, so you can click there. I believe at some point we have some links there, or by the time this goes up, we probably have some links there that link back to like Fit for Life as well. Yeah, so
Yes.
yeah, so just kind of go on there and check out. We have other resources available there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good. And I think you've closed off the podcast quite well. So with that, we'll just say, everyone go and have a good fitful life. And we'll see you
Yeah.
in the next episode.
I'll see you guys in the next episode too. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Thanks, Thane.